Welcome back, and joining me for a closer look at what's played out on the market scene today is Imtiaz Suliman from Vunani Sentio Fund Managers. Thank you so much for your time, Imtiaz. It's been quite interesting to see the JSE, pretty volatile actually throughout the trading session, but luckily we ended up in green territory. I'm just wondering why the bourse was struggling to find direction today.
Yeah, Zenati, I think what we saw today was a bit of the continuation that we've seen in the last few weeks, whereby the gold counters continued to outperform. And on the back of that, you had, Goldfields, Anglo Gold, Harmony all up. And on the countering side, offsetting the gains that we saw were the likes of Naspers, Mondi, Seppi, MTN, Telkom, that were all down. So I think there was a bit of a mix results from the different counters on our bourse. But it was also nice to see that some of the domestic names, like the banks, which have been struggling over the last while, have started to see share gains in the recent while. And I think what you're seeing there is some benefit from the lower bond yields that we've seen, as well as optimism of better GDP growth going forward. And, from a valuation perspective, these counters remain on the cheap side.
Okay, yeah, very important that you also highlight those losses that we saw in the paper and packaging space. But before we get to that, actually, pretty interesting developments in the tech and AI space, where AMD's shares surged 30% after it was unveiled that there has been a partnership reached between the chipmaker and OpenAI, where OpenAI could own a 10% stake there. What could it mean in terms of what this partnership could bring to the table, particularly in this period of growth for the tech and AI sector?
Yeah, I think what we're seeing there is a doubling down of the AI race, and OpenAI being at the forefront of that very race. So we've seen them do a deal with NVIDIA in September, and they've now done a deal with AMD. Essentially, they're trying to secure a stable supply of chips for the ambitious build out of data centers, GPUs, processing units, and this will really make them stand apart from their competition. So it does signal quite a bit of confidence from OpenAI into the chips that AMD has. And it also shows that, OpenAI is diversifying its source of chips and not just using NVIDIA's. And AMD also has a chance in that race. They've also done a deal whereby they can take a stake into AMD of up to 10%, and that's dependent on certain milestones being reached, such as production numbers, sales figures, and share price. So a lot of confidence by OpenAI into the AMD architecture.
All right. Well, not so much confidence on Mondi, as of course we saw in morning trade, the share nosediving about 17%. It released a third quarter update and it was not looking pretty. And it's actually quite interesting to see that those losses filtered through to the other players in that space, and particularly Sappi on the JSE. Just talk to me about that and really what investors are worried about, because it's not just a company specific issue. It's across the board.
Yeah, I think what Mondi really highlighted was that the paper space is in a very tough environment. So what we did see come out of this third quarter trading update was that there is low demand, but pricing also hasn't held. Mondi did try to push through some prices at the beginning of the year, and those prices have reversed essentially. And then the third factor affecting these results is the extension of maintenance shutdowns. So putting that all together, the number that Mondi reported, and we'll see the full extent of that, is going to be down from the second quarter, but also makes it very difficult for them to reach the full year consensus. So I think what we're seeing is lots of competition from the Chinese supply side coming through, but also some weakness from a demand perspective that's impacting overall demand levels. And again, Mondi does have a stronger balance sheet, but for Seppi, which was also down 11% on the day, they've got a much weaker balance sheet and some concerns around them specifically with the lower pricing and demand from a paper perspective.
Yeah, very bad times there indeed. Before we get to your stock pick, let's quickly talk about Altron. It posted its interim trading statement. HEPS from continuing operations are expected to increase by as much as 24%. The company didn't give us too much color there. What can you say about this performance?
Yeah, I think a bit of a mixed performance. If you look at the IT side of the business, that's been under a bit of pressure as companies sort of delay their spend and IT capex renewals. So that side has come under pressure, similar to what we've seen on BCX with regards to telecom. But if you look at the fintech side and Netstar, they performing quite well, and I think that strong annuity revenue from the likes of a Netstar bodes well for Altron. There's a bit of a technicality with regards to the change in depreciation, and we'll see the full extent of that when the company reports the results.
All right. Well, Imtiaz, let's get to your stock pick. What are you choosing today?
Yeah, I'm going with Inditex. Inditex is the parent company of the brand Zara, amongst others. And I think they've got a very strong moat in terms of their production facilities, whereby they produce fashion very fast and have that fashion in store, almost within 2 weeks. And the use of data and AI to determine what's selling well and putting that product into the stores as the demand comes through is what really stands them apart. So they're very well vertically integrated. They've got world-class leading margins. Their gross margins are at 57%, and you've got operating margins at 19%. And that allows them to generate very good amounts of cash and returns on capital, with your return on equity at 30%. So they've got a strong presence both in online as well as the bricks and mortar space. And I think they're well placed in this fast fashion business globally to take advantage of consumers' demand for fashion items.
Well, Imtiaz, happy shopping. That's on the shares and also on the fashion. Thank you so much for your time today. That was Imtiaz Suliman from Vunani Sentio Fund Managers.